our listeners. Thank you. And by our Spring Challenge grader, Michael Knopf and Kathleen Knick. Weather-wise for the eastern UP and out up into Canada, mostly sunny to partly sunny today, highs mid-80s, 28 to 30 Celsius. Should be partly cloudy tonight, lows mid-60s, 17 to 19 Celsius. Partly sunny again on Sunday, highs mid-80s, 28 to 30 Celsius. For the northern third of the lower peninsula, after this morning's patchy fog burns off, you'll see partly sunny skies today. A slight chance of some rain this morning, and then a 50% chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms this afternoon. As your highs today should be about 90 degrees. Look for partly cloudy skies overnight with a 40% chance of rain through the overnight. Lows mid-60s. Come Sunday, partly sunny, a 30% chance of afternoon rain. Highs on Sunday will be in the upper 80s. For the central counties of the lower peninsula, after the morning fog burns off, look for partly sunny skies and a 70% chance of showers and thunderstorms this afternoon. Highs today will be in the upper 80s. For tonight, mostly cloudy in the evening, partly cloudy after midnight still. There will be about a 50% chance of some rain. Patchy fog developing toward daybreak. Overnight lows mid-60s. And then for Sunday, look for partly sunny skies. Highs on Sunday will be in the upper 80s. In about 15 minutes, we turn to today's Writer's Almanac with Garrison Keeler. This is CMU Public Radio. This is Weekend Edition of NPR News. I'm Scott Simon. The U.S. House of Representatives could vote as soon as next week on whether to make the U.S. Patriot Act a permanent part of the U.S. legal code. Portions of the act are set to expire at the end of the year. NPR's Larry Abramson reports.
The American Civil Liberties Union knows it can't bring down the Patriot Act alone. It needs support from moderate and even conservative groups. Lately, the organization has been trumpeting its association with the right in a series of radio ads.
Hey, Steve, how about Chuck? I can treat you.
Not bad, Jerry. How's business?
Good, but the feds are making me build a pipeline from Siberia. They've already cut a $70 billion deal with Iran. And there's a genuine fear that China will begin to go to those parts of the world where the United States buys oil, and also go to those parts of the world where we have enemies.
Does this aggravate what is sometimes already a fractious trade relationship with China?
What's really going on here is that this deal is yet another signal that China is becoming an economic superpower and will someday be on par with the United States. And it feeds into all these fears that we have about China, some of which are legitimate. I mean, it's hard to manufacture anything in the United States since it can be done so much more cheaply in China, and now there's legitimate worries about service jobs gravitating to India and China. And now all of a sudden, the Chinese are saying, we want the oil.